All right, I do believe we are live. Let me just check my audio because I have some boomer tech problems. AJ was just saying that this is fairly impressive that he's pretty bare bones, but let me tell you, my audience knows about my boomer issues. I try. What's up, guys? All right, yeah, so I'm in my library, of course. You can see how, got all my books in this room. So it's Wednesday interview in the library time. And my first guest, I'm excited. Yes, people are saying Martina in pink. And I will tell you why I'm wearing pink. It's because I'm goth. I'm into the goth thing. And so this is the pastel goth look. But in particular, I did a video. I like black. That's my color. But I did a video on my first guest, AJ. And one of the things that he says is what is attractive in a woman, when men find women attractive, is to wear pink. So I'm humoring him today. And I wore pink for you. So welcome.
I appreciate that.
So, yeah, tell me what is going on. I found out about you through a New York Post article about this list in particular, about wearing pink and all that stuff. So that's my experience. I don't know if this is like super old. I don't know if people that follow me know exactly what I'm talking about with this list. So do you want to kind of give a little rundown of your situation and this list and what you do?
Yeah, so I mean, to give some background context, which I have an odd story to try to describe it, make sense of it. So I'm actually by profession a personal trainer.
Right.
So I started personal training 10 years ago, and then I started writing online about 6 years ago, but I never really wrote about fitness. I wrote about more sort of like, I guess sort of the psychology, self-improvement, relative to the body.
Right.
And that kind of turned me on to sort of the political climate, where I saw the trend shifting from, let's say like post 2010, of people trying to like improve yourself, help yourself, not be a victim of yourself, to like a victimization culture, and then the rise of political censorship, since I just was always sort of hobby-wise into politics, censorship, and social issues that way. Mm-hmm. And then I started on Twitter about 3 years ago, started growing accounts. Mike Cernovich is a good friend of mine, for those people that know him. So he retweeted my stuff a lot, and I grew into like a decent-sized account, over 60,000 people. And in this past February I tweeted out a list of 12 steps how to be a beautiful woman, which was actually a spoof off of another tweet that I found from some Hollywood actor, which was the 12 things women don't need to do for men.
Uh-huh.
And it was one of those very sort of like performative white knight virtue signaling that you don't have to be pretty, you don't have to be nice to us, you don't have to really do anything other than just exist, and we're supposed to appreciate you. And I thought it was just bullshit. So I'm like, I hate white knights. So I'm like, I'm just gonna rip off this. So I cut and pasted his list. And instead of saying that these are the things you don't have to do, I said these are things you do have to do.
Right.
And surprisingly, that went mega, ultra viral, beyond anything I've ever experienced at all. And it got 50 million views, and I got contacted by pretty much major newspaper, news outlets, every channel you could think of. I was getting hit up. It got 15,000 comments. It was in the New York Post. It was on the Philadelphia Morning News. It was on the BBC radio.
Wow.
Like four or five different times. And then I probably got somewhere in the realm of like at least about like 1,000 death threats, just from people that wanted me to die. That I should be castrated. I'm ugly. Women don't really like me.
Right.
I'm probably an incel. So on and so forth. The typical insults. And somehow that brought me to like some degree of relevancy in the, I don't know what you want to call it, like the punitive, like petty politics spectrum.
Yeah.
Where I got noticed a lot. But the irony of all this is like my actual, business at this point. It's basically self-improvement for men, and catering to kind of like the lost boy generation. So like in that sense, the publicity was good. All publicity.
Right.
Well, I'm not gonna say is good publicity. It can be good publicity. If you're just. I've already been through the gauntlet before of being doxxed when I was in the fitness industry.
Same, yeah.
For political incorrectness. So like this is my third time of people trying to dox me, like destroy my life. I've already been fired from everything I could ever be fired from. so like I'm pretty anti-fragile at this point. Thankfully, so the attention was not stressful that way. But the phenomenon this is the sort of the mob culture of the internet now. Like that was pretty fascinating to watch. I mean, it went on for a while. It lasted about a week, which is pretty long. Usually it's only about 24 hours.
Yeah, I mean, I've been attacked by the media, so I get it, and I've had the onslaught of like crazies come after me, and doxxed and that whole thing. But yeah, when I came across your list and the New York Post article, I was at the time working at Rebel, so I was always hunting for something to talk about, and it just kind of fit with this right-wing politics kind of thing, and yeah, I could see why it's a strange list too, because it's not really controversial. You're not really saying anything really that bizarre, It's just like, hey, you want to be attractive, which, most women do want to be attractive. And it's basically pretty literal, just be feminine, like, yeah, basic things. And so I was like, okay, this list, like, I get it. It's not that bad. You're not being like super incel where it's just like pretty much like wear a burqa, and like be a virgin, like all this stuff. It was just pretty normal. Like shave your legs, like, okay. Not a really hard thing to understand. So I definitely got the list, and I broke it down in a way, like in a girl version of like, okay, what he's saying isn't really that bad. Calm down. And each item on the list, I could really understand the perspective and try to kind of rationalize it in the girl sense. But like I said, the only one I was like, well, I do like black more than pink, but it's fine.
Well,
it's fine.
To be completely honest, like I'm not actually really preferential to pink in those cases. Like I'm more of a black-red guy in terms of colors I like.
Yeah.
But it was just I had to throw that in there just for the sake of just like, all right, pink and red, like this is gonna probably piss some people off. But
right.
The inspiration for it was so I've written a lot about relationships and sort of sexual dynamics the past 3 years, simply because I've worked with a lot of women, over the course of my career, and I've always been very entertained by how many women, sort of like the modern woman phenomenon. Women always have like grocery lists, is what I call it, of like all the qualities they men.
Right.
Yeah, like it's always a running joke where like if you talk with a client, she's single, she's trying to date, she is complaining about being single. What are you looking for? And it's like a PowerPoint, basically.
Yeah. Oh, he needs to make this much money. He needs to be this tall. He has to have this kind of car. Yeah.
And it just keeps going on and on. And like sort of the challenge I always throw out, it's like, okay, well, what is he getting with you?
Right.
And then that's when they go silent. I'm like, all right, let's hold them near a little bit.
Yeah, no, it's really good stuff. But yeah, like you said, you do. Let me bring up your website real quick. So, it definitely is more about, self-improvement and helping your life. And I noticed I clicked on, it says Cortes, and look at you and your dancer skills. This is, your life is a constantly evolving work of art. And I actually really appreciate that, because I actually was a dancer in New York, and consider myself an artist, a performance artist. So I was kind of like pumped about this. I was like, okay, yeah, you get it. Because I think a lot of the people in the manosphere world kind of won't really take my arts or dancing as a serious thing, or they'll say it's something degenerate. So I do appreciate that you kind of understand the concept of self-improvement through body and movement and dancing and all that stuff. I just love that picture. That's so cool. And your hair is flowing.
Yeah, no, I have a background in my actual degree is in dance performance and choreography.
Oh my God! Wow.
So my original career aspiration was to be a professional ballet dancer, and that got derailed by just a bunch of injuries.
Wow.
Yeah, so the fitness thing was a sort of a backup where I didn't know what else to do.
Right.
But the thing with art that, especially in the male sphere, which is mostly filled with honestly defective men, largely. But the art is aspirational. Art is how we explore ourselves, how we explore creativity, it's how we express ideals. I always consider myself an artist before I ever, sort of had any other identity. Even with fitness, with making your body, it's a very common thing. You want to consider yourself as a work of art, and how many different ways can you sort of, unfold yourself and express yourself.
Yeah, that's definitely how I view my art and my dance. Is that it's a work of art, and my body is a work of art, and it's made. I'm made by God, and dancing and using the human body as a work of art. That's kind of what like the statue of David and a lot of Greek and Roman sculptures and all that stuff. It is about marveling and even appreciating dance, like ballet, like proper dancing is. It's a marvel of the human body and what God has created, and so that's how I've always perceived my work. And I mean, I'm not made by a doctor at all, 0%. Just a little bit of black hair dye. That's about it. And so it is like this is God, this is what God made. This is a marvel of being healthy and taking care of yourself and putting yourself out there. So it's really nice to hear that you get it, and maybe we can balance things out. Because I think both the far right and the far left are a little confused. I actually did a piece on this 2016. It's called Art in the Nude, and it's like how the far left kind of focus more on the cult of ugliness and being bizarre and strange is their kind of the way that they do art, and then the far right is like, oh, any nudity, Puritan, like bad. And it's like, okay, like there's a little, you have to understand culture, and being cultured is really important, and understanding art is important for culture and civilization. But like you say, there's been this debate going on. Did you see that whole Stefan Molyneux thing about working out?
Yeah. It reminded me of niche, or like sort of the cult of the body haters.
Right.
I guess reference Zarathustra, but there's always that sort of rationalization that the obsession with the body, the prioritization of the body, the idolization of the body and only the body. That's narcissistic and vain, and why would you spend all your time on this? And what kind of man or woman does that? And I've always found it like a very shallow criticism. Yeah, like when we talk about artwork, or for cultures that create art, historically religion was what drove most. Religion was the thing that drove the creation of most artistic pieces of work.
Right.
Most things that exist today that we consider beautiful and holy and are inspiring to us, they had a religious, sort of a drive to them, or they were purposefully religious, whether you go to a church, whether you're Catholic or not, or, even for the Greeks and for the study of aesthetics, they were trying to model what an ideal is that a man is supposed to, hopefully aim for and aspire to.
And the Greek gods and goddesses, which were idealized as well.
Yeah, they're idolized. So, I mean, I never found anything shallow about that, but that sort of criticism of it is that, it's about vanity. It's always about vanity. And like, some things are about vanity, but vanity can also be very justified, as well. I saw that in the fitness industry the last 10 years, where it's this very paradoxical, sort of fat acceptance, body acceptance that is, said on one hand, but then this sort of disregard for the fact that everyone that goes to a gym or everybody that works out, however you want to say it, you do that because you're unhappy with yourself and you're dissatisfied with your form and your being, and you want to change that. That's why you're there.
Yeah. Well, I also think, too, that working out... Now, I was a certified personal trainer as well, actually, one time, many moons ago. And there is something about... Excuse me?
No, tell me more.
Yeah, and I feel like working out, I think there may be some sort of philosophy on this as well, some maybe documentation, writings, but working out and being principled, I think there's a correlation with religion, with working out, because it's a dedication. The left is all about hedonism and do what feels right and do what you want. I would love to just sit around eating donuts all day, like literally icing from a jug, and just sit on the sofa and watch TV all day. I would love that. But you know what? It takes dedication to get your ass out of the house, off the couch, and do something painful. I mean, working out is kind of painful in a bit. And so it's similar to faith, where it takes dedication, it takes sacrifice, and all these things. So I see it kind of connecting. And then also when you're healthy and you say get a runner's high or a workout high or whatever, it is this sense of connection with when I'm out there running and there's trees blowing and I'm one with nature and the world. I have a sense of godliness about it, you have this spiritual connection. So I think there's more to it. that they are leaving out. But yes, you can then go too far and become obsessed with working out, and then it becomes a point of vanity, and then you can introduce drugs and what is it called, steroids and all that stuff, and then it becomes less. It's all about balance, and I think the same thing with beauty as well. I'm all about beauty. I hate the whole ugly art and performance art and weird stuff. My whole thing was beauty and bringing like the religious artworks. It brings like awe and beauty and all that stuff, and gold and all these ornate things. But then there becomes a point of vanity when it's an obsession over beauty, where then you start plumping yourself up and getting all these injections and you're obsessed with beauty. So it is about the right balance,
Well, yeah, that's where that's where the conversations that get had about these things. They tend to have very poorly defined boundaries. This is not a problem with Molyneux specifically, but when these certain subjects are just talked about, like this artwork and relative to the right and the left, how people define it from the outset defines the conversation around it. And if you're defining it poorly, which is very often done, it's either this or it's that. You take something that's very broad and complex like art, and then you make it very sort of
simplified,
diametric, A or B. It's either this or it's that.
Right.
Well, then there's no way to explore its depths at all. The conversation is done that way. It's a shallow way to think.
Yeah.
Something. When you are training, and I've told people this the clients that are religious, that I've had, relative to myself. If you want to align yourself with God, and you want to raise your level of self-awareness and your level of consciousness, you do that through the experience of the body and the mind. And there has to be some external force that you are, both creating and acting upon, and that is acting on you. And training is a very, very direct, probably I would argue the most direct way to do that. That's why I always recommend it first for people who want to change themselves, whatever that means to you. Start with what you can feel.
Yeah.
And we can all feel discomfort. We can all feel pain. And hopefully someone is willing to sacrifice their comfort for the potential.
Right.
Hopefully.
Right. Yeah, I think that's the first thing that people say when you're depressed, right? They say, go and exercise. It makes you happier. It releases those endorphins and stuff. So it's definitely healthy and good for you. But let me see what else you have on here. So you have this newsletter. I think that's your thing, right? Is that how you really share your content? Yeah.
So the newsletter actually, it's funny. My website, it really reveals nothing about me since I don't update it ever. But the newsletter, I've had that for 3 years, and that has about 20,000 subscribers actually. And it's about maybe 20%.
It says 20,000 plus people can't be wrong.
Yeah. So it's I like to define that. It's maybe about 20% fitness. A lot of it's just sort of my philosophical commentary on the modern world. If Julius Evola decided to have a newsletter in 2019 and just talk a lot about stuff that he thinks, but
I love that reference. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what the newsletter essentially is. It's my sort of my private journal of watching the world as it unfolds. Inserting my philosophy on it. How I see things going. Where I think the future's headed. And people seem to really, really, really like it. And then also I'll throw in there, some stuff on unfatting yourself and fucking yourself and hopefully getting yourself physically, right and proper.
That's cool. Yeah, I'm just trying to go through and show people who maybe aren't familiar and even myself educate. I've been following you since I did that video, but it's nice to see the deeper levels of what you do, because I think most people just see us tweet or an Instagram post, but there's more. We're more dynamic than that. You're more dynamic than that, and it seems like you do some really good work here. So let's see what you have here. Hold on. There's your blog, Imposter Syndrome. Can you tell me about that a little bit?
Yeah. So imposter syndrome, on the basic level, is essentially when someone is trying to be something, different from what they are currently, and they feel like they are faking it. Yeah, that's a simple level.
Right.
That was from a larger email I wrote, which was pretty long. It was probably a 10-page email. I was talking about how in the modern world, with the rise of digital culture, everybody has an avatar that they use to represent themselves. And your avatar can be two things. It can be a simplification of you, or it can be an overly constructed sort of idealization of what you wish you were, and then you use that to identify and connect with people. But a lot of people that I've through this operating the sort of digital space for a long time, I've met lots of people who are not as they represent themselves. That's very common.
Yeah.
So there's that factor, and there's also the reality of people when you are trying to, let's just say, get healthy, get fit, work out, exercise. You're going to have that cognitive dissonance, psychological resistance to doing so because the future that you're trying to create, it's not predicated upon any past. Mm-hmm. Your past will always try to prove itself. Your identity is always sort of replicating that way.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of. I don't like calling it self-help necessarily. I don't know what you prefer saying, because I don't want it to come across like new agey, but it's definitely rooted in more foundation than just like new agey self-help stuff. But I think that's definitely a concept of self-improvement is letting go of the past, where it's like exactly what you're saying. The future doesn't define your past. The past doesn't define your future.
Yeah. It's like if you speak on like a biblical level, it's like when it's like God's various challenges to Abraham that you're going to have to trust me with what I'm presenting to you. Yeah, and I call it self-development, but a person's evolution essentially through life, that can be a conscious process where you are directing it, you're in control of yourself, or it can be unconscious where you're just reacting to things. And your life will go two ways that way.
Right.
I said that yesterday in an email I wrote out, but it was on the concept of fate, where I'm like, fate, it's not real necessarily in the sense that I think people are predestined, from birth.
Right.
But your consequences form a certain chain, over the course of your life, where your outcomes will become very predictable, and you can see that 1, 2, 5, 10, 20 years in people's futures where their life is going to go. Right. So like you write your fate that way.
Yeah.
If you don't like where that's going, then again, how do we change that?
Yeah, in alchemy you call it being a co-creator. So you can co-create your life. I mean, there's only so much of all you have to do in life is think it and it'll come true. It's like, yes, you can guide yourself in a certain direction. There are things that life throw at you. There are certain variables that you can't control. But I think it's co-creation is what I've read in alchemy about, like, and I don't want to get all into stupid political terms, but what you were describing about being able to predict people's actions is kind of like an NPC. So it's like you become so programmed into functioning a certain way that it becomes mechanical, and you can predict what people are going to do. And that's something that I love about alchemy as well, is that it kind of stops that from happening, and it makes you really reflect and make better choices in life through kind of self-awareness.
Yeah, have you read anything about mimesis and Rene Girard at all with memetics?
No, actually.
Okay.
This sounds interesting.
So Rene Girard is sort of like a post-structuralist French philosopher for people who want word salad bullshit with philosophy. His central thesis, he wrote a book called Things Hidden Since the Foundation of the World. But his central thesis, which I think is pretty simple to describe, it's this idea that human beings are all mimetic. So basically meaning that we learn how to live, breathe, act, speak by just copying each other. We're always copying each other. Like that's what behavior is. Like you can't learn in a vacuum at all. Mm-hmm. And this mimetic instinct, it's basically at the root of all of our behavior because, like I said, that's how we learn. Like we're always looking for patterns. But when it comes to groups, or when it comes to sort of individuals, or when it comes to societies, you can very accurately predict people's behavior, and you can predict groups' behavior because they're always going to mimic the other group. And what happens with sort of like mimetic conflicts is that two groups, once they start trying to copy each other, they keep having to escalate the behavior over time because they're basically battling to be sort of the same thing. And you see that, I see that in the right and the left today, where it's become this conflict of where it's bad behavior on both sides, or it's two sides basically doing the same thing to each other repeatedly, and the stakes keep getting higher and higher and higher, and it fuels the outrage. But like once you watch it for a while, you can see like, all right, someone said this, and here's the outrage machine from this side, and then someone did this, and here's the outrage machine on that side. Yeah, it's very much this ricochet effect.
Yes.
And the ultimate outcome is basically sort of the destruction of everything, which is not good. But it removes, I think, a lot of the mystery people have as to, like, how could someone think that? How could they do that? And, like on a very basic level for memetics, for every belief, there will be an equal and opposite belief. That's always going to happen. That's physics. That's just basic physics.
Yeah.
It's Newtonian physics.
Yeah, exactly.
Politics,
for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. That's Newton's which law? The second, third?
Second law.
Yeah, I studied math actually, mathematics. So I took my physics and math. I got you. I'm with you. Okay, sorry. Go ahead. You're talking about the memetics.
Yeah, but that memetic theory, I should publish that email since people really like that one.
Yeah, you should. Sounds good.
Yeah. But it simplifies, I think, politics and sort of society at large, like once you start viewing things that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it takes out the mystery of, like, how could someone do this, think this, say this? And, like, well, look at what preceded it. I mean, nothing is ever happens really accidentally so much.
Right. Well, I've noticed also to complain about politics, and lately I'm like, it's obvious to complain about the left. The left is just like, I mean, do we have to even point out the things that annoy us with these SJWs and what the feminists did next? But now I'm kind of annoyed about the right, and I see the same thing happening on the right, where it's like you described, a certain group has to act a certain way, and there's like people that want to fit into that box of, I'm a conservative pundit or figure, and so I have to have this specific response to this particular issue. And sometimes I don't really believe it's genuine that much. But I've also noticed that if you break away from that normal, expected response of the right, the other right people start attacking you for not agreeing with the way that you're supposed to agree with as a conservative.
Yeah, I've seen that on Twitter play out. Like, I'm not going to name names of people, but it's like it's like you said, it's easy to criticize the left because there's certain cliches. The performative wokeness, the virtue signaling, the predictability of the opinions that are going to morph daily to fit, whatever is the relativistic good. We can go on about that for hours and hours and hours, and it's all insane.
Right.
But you see the same thing now with, like, the right, reaction, where it's like the performative conservative, where. Let's say, like something happens at the border. Can you believe? I already know what the response is going to be.
Yeah.
It's Democrats' fault. Trump is faultless. How dare you question that we need to, do whatever it is that we think the conservative, sort of polar position is. Yeah, and then when people contradict it, you get a mob attacking you that you're not a true conservative. You're not a real conservative. You failed the purity test. And I mean, it's funny to watch, and then, like, I've seen that too with so many women, like the right-wing female pundits, where I'm like, do you really believe this shit, or are you just are you just a thoughty hot girl that wants, like, the accolades?
Yeah.
It's hard to take people seriously if you really watch them.
Yeah, I mean, it is definitely this concept of what is it on your website called again? The imposter syndrome, and this concept of trying to just be like the group. I mean, and it's a natural thing. I mean, this doesn't really. We think that we've all moved beyond high school at times, but I think it's a similar thing in school where you want to be like everyone else. I think it's a natural. I think there's some psychology behind that too. I don't know what the studies are, what names are, but it's wanting to be like everyone else, like all the other people in your group, and if you are the outcast, then it's not good. It messes with your head, or everyone naturally wants to be associated with their group.
I talked about that a little bit this morning on Twitter. There's sort of like two aspects of that. You have tribalism, which is like saying it's like the hot word now, like, oh, it's all tribalism. The world's saying the tribalism. Like people are always tribal by nature. We want to have. We get our identity from other people. Like the way we define ourselves is because we contrast ourselves with others, or we find like-minded people. So people like to belong to something. But there's also the element of this herd mentality where everybody does the same things, thinks the same thing, acts the same way. Very much the NPC culture. And then when you get ostracized from your tribe, or especially when you get ostracized from your herd basically just runs you over. Yeah. And then you get trampled by it. And then maybe you have to go off and find a new tribe. And for those people that are truly striving to be independent in their thinking, it's just aggravating, most of the time.
It is.
Because you know this, like you realize that you're not allowed to really have like singular, unique opinion. It has to be someone else's opinion that was the pre-approved opinion of like the consensus opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and try to pretend like, oh, I want to be independent. I'm an independent thinker. I'm a free thinker. Which, yes, I would like to say that I am. I mean, I'm an artist. Artists generally have the weird kind of concepts and try to be in their own way, but of course I want the herd to approve of me. I want accolations, and I want to be adored. Like, I'm not going to deny that. And it's definitely true. And there are sometimes talking points. I mean, I think even recently, I don't know if people are going to clip this and call me out on this now, but I think I've been seeing stuff about student loan debt forgiveness and stuff. There's different topics, even climate. I think climate change or just environmentalism in general on the right. There's things that I don't necessarily agree with on the right's opinion, and sometimes I'm quiet about it. Sometimes I call it out. I tend to call out other right-wing people when I don't agree with them, and it causes me problems. But then sometimes people are like, "Yeah, you're right. You were right about that. That person sucks." And I'm like, "No, thank you. I don't have to play by my team. It's fine. I can not like someone if I don't want to." But yeah, I think even the student loan debt forgiveness, I'm kind of like, well, I mean, I don't know about you. I'm in my 30s, but like in the early 2000s, that shit was a scam that they targeted young people. I mean, I graduated high school at 17, and I felt like I got scammed into university and taking out and signing these loans. Didn't know what the hell I was signing. I think it was definitely targeted, taking advantage of young people. So I'm kind of like, I mean, could you just forgive that debt, please? Because, like, fuck that shit. It was a total scam. I didn't realize it. So if we can have some sort of trading program to make sure that they're not allowed to be scammed anymore, then sure, let's now not just forgive debt from here on forever and make college free. I'm not saying that, but I'm kind of like, I'm not agreeing with the conservatives on this.
No, I mean, the conservative opinion, like, I ranted about this probably a few months ago, and people were so pissed about it. But, like I give a shit. Like, with the debt forgiveness, or like even the concept of student loans, there's this idea, and I want to say like this was like Nebuchadnezzar, like ancient Persia.
Oh yeah,
that, like a new king as he came into sort of like the throne, he oftentimes would forgive the debts of certain people, just to forgive the debts. Like the state would buy your debt, your debt's forgiven, and like let's clear the slate for the sake of goodwill. And this is one of the things where like I've used the term predatory capitalism a lot, where like capitalism's not bad. I'm not saying be communist, but there are elements of unbridled capitalism in regards to human greed that create problems. Is you're no longer a steward of your society. You're trying to take advantage of it. And with student loans, I had student loans too. I felt very taken advantage by it, if I'm being real, because it was. I remember being in high school, and we were like as a class like marched down to the computers, and we were made to sign up for the FAFSA. And I think about that now. I'm like, that's your publicly employed teacher having high schoolers sign up for debt that you're not aware truly of what you're doing. People are not financially educated that way. And then and then seeing the compounding effect of 10, 15, 20, $100,000 with some people, or beyond that. Should I is the solution to forgive all the debt?
Right.
I don't know if that's really the solution, because that has its own issues. Is there some solution to be found in some form of debt forgiveness arrangement, buyback, something, discharging it, being able to discharge in bankruptcy? I think so. I personally would have no problem if all the debt was canceled. I would have no issue with that.
Me too.
Despite paying off my own loans, I wouldn't care. I'm like, good. Fuck it, good.
Yeah.
But there's always the capitalism, sort of like the conservative response of boots. It's always the same shit. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. I wanted a house, I didn't get my house. I always say it's always like the fuck them kids kind of response. But the irony, of course, is something like the bank bailouts, which I still crack up about in '08.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
$750 billion, and God forbid our precious holy banks not have their predatory loans fucking washed clean. Like, thank God that we bailed them out. We needed those things. But the kids, like the young kids, fuck you all. It's your problem. Work harder. Like it's the same conservative talking points. You already know what it's going to be. Yeah,
exactly. Those are the kinds of things where it's like either go in line or you're not a real conservative. Sometimes I speak up, and sometimes I'm like, I'm not getting involved in this one. It's going to cause too much problems. Which, again, that's me being like, I care what the herd thinks of me, So there are times where I don't care, but I'm not going to lie. There are times You do, because it's human nature. You kind of do care. But it's important to acknowledge that and see that. And I think that's kind of where you're also talking about here is personality fixed, is identity. And that's kind of an interesting thing about, being able to break away from your, some people, this is also a trait that I hate, is when, I think girls do this or something, where it's like, well, this is what I'm like, and you can't change me. And it's like, yeah, you can. You can change. You can learn to not have an angry temper, like, oh, well, I'm Latina and I have this sassy temper. Just deal with it. It's like, no, you can learn how to control that temper, and why not?
I think with the prolonging of adolescent culture, like there's an author I like, Robert Bly. He calls it the sibling society. Mm-hmm. And basically, like the idea is, I think most people would agree with it, is that like modern world, we have adults that still want to be young. Like we idolize youth. So we have like adults that are sort of millennials, even like boomers, where they want to stay as young as possible. And then we have kids who also are staying young for the sake of that they have no idea how to be adults and they're struggling to adulthood. So it's sort of like kids raising kids, and one thing is with kids, like kids are very resistant to being told what to do. Like God, anyone that's had kids or been around kids know this. Like kids, you have to like make them think it's their idea. But I see this now with the cultural narcissism that I don't have to change, especially with women.
Yeah.
That you are sort of like, just by the sake of existing and having a vagina, you are a flawless, spotless. The one who always cracks me up is like everyone's a goddess. You're all goddesses.
Well, I just have to say,
like,
I am a goddess, so I'm just saying.
You are. I will give you a credit for that. But not every lady is. Not every lady is. There's certain parameters and conditions you have to fulfill, to earn that accolade, that let's say that title, so to speak. And you being bitchy, bossy, sassy, and having borderline personality disorder that you even addressed, that disqualifies you. You're disqualified.
Not a goddess. Yeah. No, I agree with you. Wait, let's see what else we have here, because this is kind of.
I think it's only like 3 things on that site, so just like FYI.
Oh no, it's okay. I'm sorry if I'm embarrassing you, because if someone just like went through my website like point for point, I would be like, oh god, this is so cringy. Like, no. But I honestly did. I keep telling myself I'm trying to prepare for my live streams and for my interviews, and then I get to it and I'm like, 15 minutes before, I'm like cranking out some last minute graphics for this thing, and I'm like, shit, I didn't even look up anything on these people. So I'm sorry, but this is what we're doing. We're gonna go through your website.
Totally okay.
Let's see what we have here. I'm sure there's a bunch of interesting stuff in here. But how do I overcome imposter syndrome? And I think that's actually an important thing, distinction to make as well, is that we talk a lot about, we complain a lot about things, and I talk about this on my streams all the time, is that, SJWs did this, oh my god, the Democrats did this, and there's all this complaining and things, or it could be non-political at all, it could be, you're upset with things in your life or whatever, but we never really address, what do we do now? Like, how do we kind of fix things? How do we better things? And I think politically we don't really, which is what I try to do, is instead of just complain about kid drag queens or whatever shows on Netflix or whatever, I try to provide an alternative to entertainment and to culture. Like, if we complain about the culture of the left, what do we have to replace it with? And I think that's kind of what you were going with on your website.
I talked about that with my buddy Ali some months back, where that's where like the right, I'll say just in general, has really lost the culture war.
Right.
They don't actually create culture; they just react to it.
Yep.
The one thing that is historically liberal, I guess you could say somewhat, is that prior to maybe 50 years ago, but it's relatively true, is that like people who are artists usually did lean left, because art is expression, and art requires you to question yourself. Mm-hmm. And to question sort of the narrative of what you live in, and that can be a good thing. That can be taken, in a bad direction as well. It can be taken towards beauty. It can be taken towards ugliness. It can be used as a mirror. It can be used as sort of to break the mirror. It depends on how you want to use it. But that's where the right today really loses, because there is no art that is created. It's just reaction. And then you see that too. This like the society at large, where problems are talked around and talked about, but there is no really solution presented to anything. I've lived in California almost my whole life.
Oh wow, okay.
And I always laugh at the state where, California has amazing weather. It's got the best weather in the world. Yeah, everything else in regards to like the civic, functionality of it is terrible. But it has great weather. If California ever had like a bad winter, like a New York winter, everything would fall apart. It'd be Mad Max. And there are certain things in the state, like they give an example, like, let's build a railroad from San Francisco to Los Angeles. Let's build like some sort of like rail structure. That's been talked about for 65 years. Wow. Never happened, never come close to happening. It's just this constant thing every 1 to 2 years. Someone has the idea, a bill gets made, something comes up in the state, Congress, Senate, and then it gets struck down. Money goes missing, nothing happens, no construction's done.
Other priorities.
Other priorities, which are probably just, like raising taxes to fuck over people.
Or
which
illegal,
is the MO.
Undocumented immigrants, or,
But just it's a basic example. But like, what is that? Like, okay, we have a great idea. Like everybody, there are ideas that are sort of grandiose ideas, but do they get executed? No. Right. And American society at large at this point, like we don't have no one in American society, save maybe like Elon Musk, has like big ideas. Things that are human ideas. Let's do something impossible and aspirational, and it might be tragic or it might be terrifyingly terrific. Let's do something like that together, as a culture. Nobody does that anymore. Now we're just a culture that we feed on each other's dysfunction. And we feed each other's problem, and it also enforces our own personal neuroses. That's I tell people this a lot. Like, you can watch politics, you can be entertained by politics. If you build your sort of identity around politics, you are going to go insane. You'll be angry every single day. Every single day you'll be pissed off about something.
Yeah, and that's what they wanted to. I mean, I've worked in different media companies, and I've noticed it being a conservative or right-wing or whatever you want to call it, and being like, yay, now I'm playing for my team and the inside. This is cool. And it's like, wait a minute. We're still doing the, like, shock jock kind of stuff and freaking out about things just so that we get the clicks. And so we definitely do it on both sides, which is stir the pot and stir the pot just for the clicks. So if you're fully invested in it, it will drive you mad. And I don't think that that's very healthy for like what you do, mind, body, and spirit. You have to be able to unplug, which is something that I've thought about with Sabbath. The whole keep Holy Sabbath Day. I was like, what does that mean? It's one of our commandments. Jews celebrate. I don't practice Sabbath. And
Sabbath is Friday, Saturday.
Yeah, and I'm just like, okay, well, we have it. I'm was raised Catholic, so I was like, okay, Catholics, it's one of our 10 commandments. Keep Holy Sabbath Day. Like, what exactly is this? And I remember looking up years ago, and as far as the Jews go, it was about. Am I allowed to say that? Or as far as Jewish people go? I don't know.
Jews, I'm Jewish, so I'm go ahead.
Okay. I was like, I don't know how you... Am I allowed to say the Jews? Is that like direct?
The Jews, yeah.
It's... well, I mean, also I was living in Brooklyn, so we have like the Hasids, like the full on, like they don't go like the... And like they don't go on use technology, they don't handle money, like they do like hardcore Sabbath. And so it kind of made sense to me when I started looking it up. I was like, you know what? This makes sense. If you need 1 day a week as a family to get off Twitter, to get off the social media, don't touch the technology, don't touch your phone, put it away, be around family, cooking, food, nature. Don't deal with work, because, I have that situation with my husband too. It's like every day just turns into the next day, and it's like every day's working, every day is on the computer, and it's like I see why it's healthy to be like 1 day a week we stop working, we stop dealing, because I'm always on my phone, so if I get off my phone, he gets off his computer, we enjoy time together as a family and go outside. I was like, that's what it's for, and it's really important.
The Sabbath day, Judaism, depending upon how observant you are, like Jews, some are very observant of the Sabbath, and like you don't use technology at all.
Right.
You can't even use like a stove technically in certain cases. But the principles is very, I think basic, but true. Is that if you want to have a better relationship with yourself, with God, and with your sense of place in the world, connect with the people who are your family. Since you have to honor your parents, honor your mother, honor your father. Yeah. And be around each other and enforce and strengthen those relationships. and recognize also what's important in life and what is sort of pure and good, and recognize what's not. Is when you step back out into the world, or you get back on Twitter, it's like, all right, you go back into the fray.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's an important thing for mind, body, spirit, and health of a family and a relationship. So that, I don't know why it reminded me, but I did want to just read that last bit of, taking that next step. And it says, someone is going to ask this. There is nothing to overcome. You feel a certain way. Bluntly, fuck your feelings. They're not real. Unless you are attempting to practice law without a license, you're not an imposter. You will be what you live out. No more, no less. Impress that idea into the way of being, and you'll become whatever you reasonably or unreasonably want. So, yeah, it's a matter of taking action, I think, is what you're saying with that last bit. It's not necessarily talking things out or feeling things. It's like, go out, be it, live it, do it. Am I wrong?
Yeah, no, not at all. I mean, it's such a basic idea. Like it's like, you could call it a Stoic idea or a biblical idea. Like that's in every culture, but ultimately we define ourselves through what we literally physically do. Mm-hmm. Our ability to talk about things is not our ability to execute at all. And people lose sight of that, especially in the political realm. It's easy to talk about stuff all the time, and nothing actually gets done. Yeah, but your actions are the thing. Your actions are the force they're going to make you. And if you are aware of that and you live by that, then life is not so hard.
Right. Okay, I am going to check on Orwell and see how he's doing. But in the meantime, you do also have this other one. If you could just tell me a little bit of what this is about, this concept. So this is Notre Dame and mass psychic wounds. What's that about?
Yeah, so that was after the Notre Dame fire, when it went up in flames, and of course it's a mystery as to how that happened, because of course it is anyway. But I'm going to reference kind of like Girard here and a few other people, but with mass psychic wounds, when you have a culture that is unified, and Notre Dame, it represents France, it represents sort of, you could say, French culture, represents Catholicism, or just Christianity in general. So when you have a structure that is a holy structure, and it has sort of like multi-generational meaning to it, when that gets destroyed, when that gets affected, it affects someone's sort of mental wellness, health, on every level. It's kind of akin to when, this is a rough equivalency, but like the 9/11, when the towers got brought down, and somehow that disrupted all of society all at once, like mass consensus. Because seeing, America be attacked in sort of like this institution of, I don't know whether you want to call it capitalism or American robustness or American invincibility, where you're learning that your idols are mortal, that your myths can be destroyed. That's really, really, really disturbing to people. And the thing about that's interesting is that seeing like a holy structure like that get burned or wrecked, that can be more traumatizing than seeing finding out people are dying somewhere in the world. That's why trying to compare tragedies is always, I think, very it's not logical at all. Like something like a massacre is happening in some country. Yes, that's terrible. We're not going to say, no one's going to say that's good. But we have no connection to that culture or that people or that conflict. But something that happens to us that is an injustice and an injury to our very sense of well-being in God, that's going to be highly traumatic. And for very different, for very deeply held reasons. So that article, it was just talking about that, and it's a way to think about it. When that happened, it was interesting to see people's reaction to it, and why does that bother us so much? It bothers us for very, maybe not clear reasons, but for reasons that are, not esoteric or obtuse if you really uncover them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an interesting topic. Yeah. Cool. I'm gonna see if what the chat is saying, and if you guys have any questions for AJ, do it now. I'm trying to get in contact with Orwell and Goode. I just remembered that last time, so I sent him a message. Hopefully, it gets to me in the next few minutes. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to, I don't know, keep you on for a few minutes. He's okay. He messaged. He said sure. So I think last time, I forgot he couldn't get his Skype situation. So he does it through Hangouts, which I'm going to do a ghetto thing with put Hangouts on, but just do the audio, 'cause it's not like he goes on camera anyway. It's just so I get the audio Hangouts. So I have to figure that out. Hold on. Sure. Let me figure that out. 1 min. Okay. All right. So we'll get through some questions, and then you guys might just have to see me boomer around the Skype Hangout. Figure out how to do that. You guys can walk me through it. Sometimes they walk me through tech problems.
Oh, that's helpful. That's a good audience to have.
I know, but then I feel like it's really bad content for anyone like coming in trying to like watch the video later. They're like, this bitch. Like,
it's good to let people know you're human. There's this expectation sometimes of like this sort of stupid level of professionalism. I feel like with online stuff, and I made a podcast this past week with a friend of mine, my buddy Ed Latmore. And we record the podcast with like a microphone. We uploaded it. Like the audio is probably not stereo or whatever the hell. I know I'm gonna get some comp from somebody. You guys need to edit the podcast. You need music. Your graphics bad. I'm like, bro, we made it. It's up. It's done. And you're gonna listen anyway. So just deal with it. Yeah,
there's a lot of critics. Whenever I have like an audio issue or something on like a produced video, they're like, oh, like there's a million of the same comments. I'm like, yes, I know. My mic broke, so I had to use the shit audio. How many times do you want me to address it? I can't believe there's so many video producers out there. Congratulations. You guys are professional. Where's your video? So, chill. All right, let me see what they are saying. I took off work on 666 as a National Day of Slayer. Cool. Yes, reevaluate the Sabbath. Reevaluate everything you think you understand. Carpe diem. See also egregor? Egregor? I don't know. Oh my god. I do have a large UK audience because I am in the UK right now. My husband is British. But someone said when the Twin Towers came down, I just thought of all those Irish Americans who gave weapons and money to the IRA. I don't know if you know what any of that means.
Yeah, the Irish Republican Army.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's really a conspiracy theory, but...
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, they definitely do some shady shit sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
The psychic power of cathedrals and such is magical, seriously. It really is, though. I like art and all that stuff. And studying art, I studied math at university, but when I was in high school, I took a lot of arts classes. And the cathedral, I went to one in York, this old Catholic cathedral in York in the UK. And it was just so stunning because it was one of those old Gothic, like very, very ornate. And there was like a choir singing, and the priest came out with his staff and his costume, and it was just so like drama. I loved it. And I was like, yes, drama, costumes, I'm into it. And then the choir was singing, and it was like literally sounded like angels, especially with the acoustics and stuff of the cathedrals. So it just really, really created that presence of like otherworldly or heavenly. And I love that. They do a really good job with their drama.
When I was in Spain years ago in high school, and I always remember it because the cathedrals there are just massive. Because the Spanish Golden Age, from 1500, 1600, they had so much gold, so they just built cathedrals, to an insane level. I was in Madrid, I was in Barcelona, a few places, and they're incredible in size and scale. I remember going to one in the south, and it was I can't remember the guy's name. It was the guy that was the Moor killer, Mato Moro. But they had all the graves and the sarcophaguses and everything of like the soldiers that died put to the floor of the skeletons, and it was both like morbid and kind of goth, and there's gold everywhere, and the building's like 5 stories tall, and you can't help but feel a sense of awe when you walk into that someone made that, and it has that level of significance.
Yeah, and that's our Western culture. They say we don't have culture, but look at
bullshit.
that. Look at that. Okay, you guys are being awfully quiet. Normally my audience is like banging out comments and questions and all sorts of stuff, and I have to keep up, but come on, guys. Any questions here for Mr. Cortes? Is that how I say it? Cortes?
Yeah.
Okay. Just want to make sure it's not like, I don't know. It's not a Z at the end, it's an S. So I'm like, I don't know. You heard it, guys. Riot.
Very good.
And egregore is a collective thought form that takes on a life of its own. Congregations create them. Like a collective consciousness of sorts.
That's a good way of saying it.
Huh. Okay.
Egregore.
Well, yeah. No one's really saying anything, but if you guys, have any other comments or questions, check him out. Let me get your Twitter up.
Oh, yeah.
Go follow and support. And this is kind of what I talk about all the time, is that there's a lot of really interesting people to follow that provide more content than just bitching about politics and the same old talking point. So if you guys are interested in the next step, going beyond complaining about SJWs or what's going on at the border or what Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is doing or saying, this is the content that you want to be following. So go follow him, AJA_Cortez with an S.
Cortez.
And, then you can have content and work on stuff that goes beyond the surface level politics if you're really interested on taking the next steps beyond that. So, yeah, go check him out. Do you have any books or anything that you want to shill?
No. I told myself I would never write a book until after I turned 30. So.
Oh my God, you're not even 30 yet? Jesus Christ.
No, I turned 30 in April, so I'm 30. Now maybe I'll write a book about something.
Okay, I'm older than you. Damn.
Yeah. I've looked 40 about since I was 20. So.
Yeah, I've looked about 25 since I was like 13, and it's still, and I'm still, I think, on that spectrum. So I'm like a vampire. I'm gonna stay looking the same forever.
Yeah, well, that's why I tell people too. I'm like, I've always looked older, but I've never looked any older. So.
Right. You're just gonna plateau. That's what I do.
Just never age.
Okay, we have a question. How does AJ keep his hair so shiny?
Honest to God, I just have really good hair genetics. I get hair questions constantly from people. So I mean, I eat a very healthy diet, like I take care of myself, but like good hair genes, I just got good hair genes. I don't do anything special that I could say, like, if you do this product,
this trick,
like,
yeah.
I'm probably losing out on millions of dollars by not having a hair product care line, but I don't do anything that's, I brush it a lot. That's it. Just brush it a lot, and yeah, hopefully you won the genetic lottery with your mom and dad.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. It's all about them products to sell, right? But yeah, I think brushing probably stimulates the circulation. You don't wear like hats and stuff and wear a lot of ponytails. No. Maybe when you're at home, I put my hair up right away when I'm home. But yeah, it's definitely genetics. That's how I got this hair, guys.
We got some more questions. Have you ever been to Switzerland? I have not. What advice do you have for autodidacts who seem to be able to do anything? I talked about that yesterday with my conversation with Ed. If you're somebody where you are a very fast learner and you're intelligent and you have the potential to be good at anything, you have to pick something that you can take seriously. Yeah, that's sort of like one of the curses of knowledge now with modern culture, where you have people where they have the talent to be talented, but because they're exposed to so much on any given day in terms of information, they cannot actually select something. Yeah, so they entertain the idea that, I'm always going to have, that ability to, I don't know, like specialize to become an expert or conquer, and you end up doing nothing. It's sort of like the smart person's version of overanalysis.
Yeah, okay. I have figured out Google Hangout, so we can let go of AJ any second, as long as all the questions are done. I think that was the other question you had. Do you think Renaissance men and women exist?
Yeah, they do. They're just in common. Yeah. One of the things that's been lost in like sort of modern society, amongst many other things, is this idea of being a man or a woman. who is well developed in all areas. Like we're a culture of specialists. We take a lot. We put a lot of importance on credentials and people being like supposedly the expert, but we're very defective in most other parts of our lives. So I mean, the Renaissance kind of ideal. It's basically just it's a well developed person where intellectually, spiritually, cognitively, physically, professionally, you have it all going on. That's not an impossible thing to develop, but and if you do that, you're going to get resistance from people who will tell you to stay in your lane, who tell you that you are speaking off turn, and you're never going to be part of the herd if you make yourself that kind of person. So just FYI.
Good point. Good point. Okay, I'm going to call my next guest. So
Awesome.
Thank you so much. I had a
You're
lot
welcome.
of fun.
Yeah, it was good talking to you, my lady.
Stay in touch.
Adios.
All right, guys. I am going to call Orwell right now. 1 second. He was so nice. Love him. Good guy. Good guy. Hopefully he picks up. Sorry, guys. 1 second. Let me sort this out. Thank you for being patient. Yeah, 1 second. Sorry, guys. Let me just see what you guys are up to. Let me see what you guys are up to. Yes, you missed the Fabio interview. He's actually really, really cool. Oh, I guess I have to send him a link? Ah! How do I do this? Joining by link. Creating link. Copy link. Let me send a link. Yeah. Sorry guys, 1 second. Oh my god. Oh my god. I suck at this. Copy text, send it to Orwell and Goode. Am I in this conversation? Sorry, guys. Alright, he said 1 second. Hopefully that works. Let me see if I can find him via Skype. Sorry, guys. Just chill. Just chill. Oh. Alright, let me see how you guys are doing. We're just going to wait for the call. So, yeah. Have no desire to be part of the herd. Time to drink some victory gin and smoke some victory ciggies while we wait for Orwell. It's about right. You say sorry so much like you're an honorary Brit now. I always say sorry. I've always been a sorry kind of gal. Just gonna roll this while we wait. We're waiting and waiting. Reboot DOS and upgrade your modem to 56K. All right. Off topic, but what's the pink thing on the back of your chair? It's white, I believe. Should be white. And it's a lovely little piece of fur to zhuzh up my shitty chair, because it does not look right in this fabulous room. But with the fur on it, it's quite nice. Thank you. This is my library, Sandra. I love a nice library that has wood and maroon colors and books lining the wall and the ladder. I like a nice ladder in my Oh, blouse. I thought you said house.
Hello.
Oh, hello.
How's it going, Martina?
Oh, hey. Nothing. Wait, which one am I talking to you on Hangouts right now?
Yeah.
Oh man, this is like...
Sorry about the confusion.
Oh, no worries. It's my fault. I didn't prep so well. I was saying that to AJ too. I was like, man, I'm really sorry about it, but we're just going through your website, because every single time I go to do a stream or an interview, I intend to do a little bit of research and prep a bit better, but then it always ends up being 15 minutes too, and I'm running around trying to get the stream going, and I'm I haven't even researched anything. I don't know what I'm doing. But thanks for coming on. You're still in internet territory?
I'm still in internet territory, yeah.
That's good.
It may be occupied territory. It doesn't seem to be very American where I am, but at least there's still functioning internet for now.
Yeah. That's good. I'm glad you're enjoying my country. Well, I'm enjoying yours, I suppose. We've swapped. But yeah, man. So thanks for doing me the favor back. I mean, I was on your show a few weeks ago, and I'm glad you can get on mine. And we're going to have people ask some questions and stuff in a bit. But I figured I want to see what's going on with you since we talked last. I think last time we talked, it was right in the middle of all that. What is it called? The grifter war was happening.
Mm-hmm.
And so what else has been going on? You've done a few other interviews, I've noticed, on your channel as well. You're really making use of that internet that you have there. And so what's been going on? What have you been talking about with people? What guests have you had on and stuff?
I've had on Endeavour, who is an NRX commentator. We're talking about strategies for the right, and it's just basically continuing on from what we were talking about when you were on my channel, as to how the right can sort of expel people who may be in it for their own opportunism, as it were. And I also had a libertarian guy called Jared Howell on. I hadn't spoken to him in a few years, and we just wanted to have a little chat, because we used to connect back when I was a lolbert as well. So it was just basically catching up and talking about what's going on in his neck of the woods, which is Maine, which recently, Portland recently took in a lot of African migrants.
What?
Which, it kind of raises some eyebrows, because I don't think there are many cultural similarities between the people who've been living in Portland for several generations and a bunch of Congolese people. And it's often cited in the articles which were promoting this about how Maine wasn't very diverse. I don't know if you remember from last year, but there was a funny article from USA Today, and when it came to Maine, they blasted Maine for being the least diverse, but praised it for having the lowest crime rate. So
Right.
I don't know, I'm just scratching my head a little bit. I can't quite figure it out. There must be something wrong there. But anyway, so that's what's been happening with me. And also, I think I started writing my next book since we spoke last time. I'm trying to think how long ago it was we spoke
Really?
about.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about 10 days ago.
Yeah, I don't know. It was a few weeks ago, but I have your book up actually on the screen. I'm switching to it right now. You guys can get it on Amazon, and I did want to talk about it and kind of see what that was about. So we could always get into that and then talk about what your next one is about. So this is on Amazon. It's called A Matter of Time: How Time Preferences Make or Break Civilization. So yeah, you want to tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, it is. The idea is really straightforward. I try to make what is kind of it's kind of spurgy. The idea. A lot of libertarians like to talk about it. A lot of economists like to talk about it when it comes to consumerism. But it's just basically simply the individual's relation to time, and I've taken that out of a sort of economic realm and have expanded it into more of a philosophical and civilizational realm.
Mm.
And the book is mostly just it's about a third of it is explaining what time preferences are, why it's important, what incentive structures there could be in place, whether or not you believe in God, whether or not you believe in the concept of a nation, whether or not you're liberal or conservative, how your parents act, how you act as a person. And the other half of the book pretty much challenges the current incentive structures that we have in place. And it's a lot of it is a critique of neoliberal economics, sort of this hyper capitalism on the other hand, on the one hand, and then this sort of very generous social democratic welfare on the other, which sort of makes these incentive structures very difficult for people to live for tomorrow, as it were. I see a lot of people living for today and sort of living hedonistically, vapid lives, and there isn't really much of substance beyond just consuming for the here and now and working these jobs which don't seem to be all that productive. They just seem to be jobs just keeping you there in a cubicle, keeping busy for 35, 40 hours a week and earning
Right.
sort of a meager salary just to keep you happy for a couple of years until you want bigger and sort of more thrilling adventures, as it were. Yeah, it's just really just it's a diagnosis of everything that's currently wrong with Western civilization on maybe more of a spiritual level. And I do kind of mention how immigration, which is a big issue in everyone's mind, causes instability in certain neighborhoods and communities, which can tie into why people are more present minded and looking for solutions in the now rather than sort of calming down the future.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's really interesting. I'm just reading what you have here, pretty much what you're saying, um, and that it's affecting Western society, time preferences. The preferences can be simplified to describe how much one values future consumption over present consumption. And yeah, I mean, what you're talking about, just working day to day just to get by. That's a concept that I've always been aware of myself as an artist because I think like artists do tend to kind of have those weird lifestyles where we don't just get up and just work away and slave away for someone else for a certain period of time. And then you have very little bit of time for yourself, so you just kind of have to do the whole dinner and the basic living things or laundry or what have you, and then get up and go do it again. So as an artist, like you don't really have that lifestyle. I did have days and days of just sitting around and researching things and thinking about things and being very existential, and then it's like you start to kind of create and come up with these ideas, these concepts for whatever you're working on. And I think that's really important. And you as a writer, which is a creative thing, I mean, you have to do that as well. I mean, if you're caught up, and that's why I haven't been able to do much the past year, was working for someone. So I became their slaving away every day, and then I didn't have that creative juice and the time to kind of do other things. And I mean, that's what reminded me of what you were saying. I don't know if that's accurate, but
Yeah, kind of in a way, it is accurate. Now, you're not really afforded the luxury to have as much free time,
right.
and there's more rigidity in your schedule if if you do work, say, 9 to 5 or 9 to 6 in some cubicle, and it's very soul destroying. It's crushing because
Right.
you're working towards an end that you don't really give a crap about. A lot of the jobs that you work towards are pretty much in some form of the service industry,
Mm-hmm.
whether it be rearranging data on a computer screen for hours on end. A lot of it isn't towards producing something tangible, as it were.
Right.
So I think there is an element of futility in when people go to these jobs and they become like a wage cuck, as it were, and they're just basically working to fill in their spare time with dopamine hits until they perish, pretty much, just to stave off
Right.
boredom. And I just see a lot of meaningless in the sort of, if you could want to call it anything like post-modernity. And that has been reflected in a lot of the lifestyles people decide to live, which don't really have as a substance, and there isn't really much of a deferral to something greater than oneself. And I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of the times, these negatively contribute towards the downward trend in Western birth rates, in sort of the acquiescence to mass immigration from third world countries. And it also ties into the fact that I strongly believe that progressivism is more of a religious than a political force, considering the fact that it's pretty much, it has its own logos, it has its
Mm-hmm.
own moral framework, even though it's not
Mm-hmm.
written per se. If you were to say something like colored people instead of people of color, and you live within a progressive circle, they will kind of look at you askance, or maybe even call you a racist. So they do have these sort of knee-jerk responses to anybody who makes sort of a heretical claim or says something blasphemous to the Church of Progress. Um, and this
Yeah.
all is interrelated with the fact that we've given the media, we've given academia, we've given the entertainment industry so much power in how they can influence our lives with all these narratives that they put in everywhere, which is why now you see that big tech is trying to censor social media users and alternative news sources because it contradicts their narrative, and the narrative is what keeps them in place. It is what sort of consolidates their position of power. And I talk about this a lot in my upcoming book as well. It's more in relation to the upcoming American presidential election cycle, and
Mm.
I just want to sort of explode all these points, sort of hammer down big tech, woke capital, all these forces. It may seem superficially harmless, but what they're doing is sort of controlling the way people feel in order to evoke a certain response. And I think the good example is over the last 24 hours, there was that Mexican father and his daughter that drowned in the Rio Grande, and then Alexandria Ocasio Cortez. So they're just manufacturing people to feel in such a way which
Right.
will evoke sort of an outrage or an outrageous response in order to push through a certain immigration policy towards a certain end, which is lax the border restrictions and eventually, I think, open borders. Because, well, I mean, on the one hand, the left benefits from it because it's more votes, it's more people on welfare rolls. On the other hand, the right benefits from it because it means an increased labor supply and more productivity and more consumption for these big enterprises.
Right. Right. Yeah, I think this is it. Was it Rams Paul's? Uh, I don't want to call it a meme, but I think with the two children laying dead, and what the media promotes and what they choose to ignore.
Right,
Um,
and I was very tempted just to put that meme on my Facebook page, and I thought, well, if I put it on my Facebook page, I jeopardize my Facebook page itself because that's the kind of content they'll just take down straight
yeah.
away.
Yeah, I mean it's amazing how much they've been. Something we were talking about too when I was on your stream was censorship because I forget what was going on at the time, but yeah, it's definitely been a big deal lately. May have been like I don't know what's his name, Crowder and stuff. I think was going on. So yeah, no, I think and then YouTube was changed. Have you gotten this notification if you do YouTube that they're changing their terms of service. Like it always freaks me out when I get those emails from YouTube. I'm like, oh, like you have that sinking feeling of like, oh, am I done? Am I gone now? Like, what did I do? Am I in trouble? Like, what's going on? And then even the terms of service change is scary for me because it's like, oh no, are they gonna change some term that is gonna end up screwing me over? So yeah, no, I get it. I mean, Facebook is really, really picky right now. They've really been taking things. I think even I had some sort of things flagged about my page being like reported as something was fake news, which is weird because I don't really like do news. I don't really like
Hmm.
do newsy stuff. I try to stay in my lane with arts and culture, and sometimes just put an article out and don't really have a commentary on it, just the headline. And that's kind of their way, a way of beating them at their own game is taking their own media, news articles that are leftist and just posting it with no commentary and just putting it out there and be like, look at this. I mean, how can they really take that down or call it fake news when it's their own side? But you're showing it not as an endorsement, but as a like what they're doing.
Yeah, it's just, you're just mocking their points.
Yeah.
My YouTube channel got demonetized about a year and a quarter ago, I think it was, a year ago, something like that. And it was a real, kick in the teeth. I wasn't making that much money, but I was a student at the time, so any dollars that would be pouring in through super chats or the little
Right.
ad rev that I'd make would go a long way, especially, not having any stable forms of income at
Yeah.
the time.
Same.
It's a real pain in the ass, and my content wasn't all that edgy back then. It's gotten slightly edgier over the time,
Yeah.
so I don't really care about my YouTube channel as much anymore. I just wanted to grow steadily and just have fun on my streams, so there's not much pressure attached. But people like iHypocrite, who don't really have sort of cemented political beliefs, also got demonetized and even had a couple of strikes on his
Right.
channel for his show You Can't Stop Progress, which is just a compilation of clips just basically showing people with an implied mockery,
Right.
sort of a tone mocking what they're doing. And I think this annoys them quite a lot, the fact that you're just mocking them for who they are, because they've just drifted so far off semblance of order, and it just represents so much chaos and deviancy to a lot of the times, and I think they're self-aware of it, but they're maybe too narcissistic to do anything about it, so they just shut you down, as it were.
Yeah. But also what you were saying about the leftism as a form of religion, it's something I've said as well a lot, is that they're very anti-religion, anti-traditional religions, which have, I mean, thousands and thousands of years of, I mean, unless it's Islam, of course, but thousands of years of tradition and enlightenment and spirituality and all that stuff. There's a lot of really amazing stuff in there to take out of having faith, and they mock it and they hate it and they push away to it. But then they turn to, like you said, their own kind of religion. And something that I've noticed was feminism is a sort of religion, and their hardcore belief system, but also without faith or traditional religion to looking towards God, they end up, you have to fill that gap somehow, whether it's SJWism, feminism, or needing psychotherapy help, needing to see a doctor, a shrink, or drugs. They have to be on some sort of antipsychotic, I don't know, one of these like pills or something to deal with their head. And that's why you see a lot of that stuff more and more. You see more people drugged up on some sort of mental kind of drugs, stuff that mess with your brain chemistry, or needing therapy and all these sorts. And I think that's a lack of faith.
Yeah, definitely. I lived in Buenos Aires for the last 2 years, up until the end of last year, and the amount of just young, pretty girls, sort of single girls in their late teens, early 20s, that were just on SSRIs and other things to treat their brain chemistry is absurd. And
Yeah.
surprise, surprise, almost all of them were imbued in these leftist beliefs. All of them consider themselves feminists. And why do you need to become a feminist? Because a lot of the times it's just the narrative that is ever present, the meta-narratives that are shunted in sort of entertainment programs where the woman is empowered, the complete dunce, he's a complete dullard, he doesn't know what he's doing. If it weren't for the woman, he'd probably just lose his head or something. And it just shows people being empowered, and then of course the woman can go off and have all these extramarital affairs. They can have these friends with benefits, and it's not going to affect their ability to pair bond in the future. they actually eat this up because it's the reality that's been presented to them, because they don't have any other conflicting information. There's been an embargo on any other conflicting information, and that's by design. Because if there were people out there saying, well, actually, no, it's not good to sleep around in your 20s and 30s because it's going to be difficult for you to forge an emotional attachment to your husband and for you to be in a stable relationship if you do that. And of course, well, they say, oh, marriage is outdated, it's patriarchal. Why would you submit yourself to something like this voluntarily when you could be an empowered femme, or whatever they want to call it? And they have this sort of cognitive dissonance within them, which, in my opinion, just tears them apart because they don't know what to do. That, on the one hand, they've been told these lies, they've been sort of fed these narratives and meta-narratives, and then the lived experiences and how they feel within don't quite match up to what they're being told, but they can't really sort of reconcile what they feel inside and how they're told to live by the media, by academia, and by the entertainment industry.
Yeah, and I think that it's as much as they try to claim. I've gotten to a debate with someone too about it, and they got very like volatile almost about it, saying that gender is a social construct and all this stuff. But I'm like, it's really not. I mean, sure, there can be certain aspects of it, maybe, but there's there's something innately in us. There's archetypes deeply rooted within us that are just the way it is. And when I go on my alchemy streams, it's kind of what we talk about as well. And those archetypes are there. There's masculine and there's feminine. And I'm not saying that, they have to be put in these tight little boxes, but ultimately there's a difference, and they form like a yin and yang. They're complementary, but they're different. You can't pretend that the yin and the yang are the same. They're totally equal. Well, they're not. They have differences. Light and dark is a difference. It just is. You can't force it and say, no, black and white is the same. It's just a social construct that they're different. Like, no, they're not. It is a difference, but that's okay. It's okay to have differences. And it's just amazing how they try to it really, I know it's cliche to say about the mental gymnastics. It gets really exhausting because I'm sorry, there's differences in the world, and you can't deny that.
Yeah, and basically what you're saying about how the left, when you expanded on what I said about the left being a religion, or the organized left being a religion or religious force, is that their sort of point of departure is turning its back on nature.
Right.
And I have heard a lot of people who used to be radical feminists or radical leftists abandoning their views, and this is in particular women, because women seem to be far more receptive to these ideas than men do. And if they are men, they're very rarely high tea men. They're often these kind of soy boy bugman tropes who are receptive to these ideas. They aren't men who can bench 300 pounds and have hairy chests and whatnot. But a lot of the times the women, when they abandon these beliefs, is when they have kids. Usually when they have a kid of either sex, when they have a boy and a girl, and despite trying to raise them with gender neutrality, they end up sort of exhibiting these masculine and feminine traits as per their sex.
Right. Because it is innate in us. No matter how much they try to deny it and act like it's a social construct, they are innate, and it is naturally within us. So it is a matter of I don't know. I've also had this conversation with someone about, is it possible to break someone? I mean, I think that, yes, most of the people that could have gotten red-pilled have made that choice. They're either red-pilled or they're not at this point, for the most part. But I think on a bigger level, kind of like what you're saying, after they have kids or whatever this breaking point is, there is something that kind of breaks down those walls and goes, okay, I can't do this anymore. Like, it is what it is. I am a woman, and I have these maternal instincts, and I have to go through that.
Yeah, I think you're right about that as well. And this kind of reminds me of my pre-red pill phase, when I was starting to get very, very frustrated with the cultural left.
You had a red pill moment? That's
no,
interesting.
I didn't have like a red pill moment, but I had sort of a run up before I got interested in looking at politics in sort of 2014, 2015. Yeah. And I'd always been like, as far back as I can remember, I was always, annoyed by political
Right. Okay.
correctness.
Yeah.
Because I
Same.
thought this is a very sort of feminine trait. Why can't I speak my mind about things? I noticed that certain groups do commit more crimes than others, and I don't think it
Right.
is because this country is sort of festering with systemic racism. And then the one thing that really, really got to me, and this was in my early to mid-20s, was how the cultural left was so keen on destroying masculinity, because I think masculinity is a wonderful trait to have.
Mm-hmm.
And, if it weren't for masculinity, you wouldn't have had all these brave frontiersmen risking their lives in order
Right.
to sort of spearhead Manifest Destiny in America. You wouldn't have had this sort of Faustian spirit to discover the world and to discover all these truths and to have all of these groundbreaking scientific achievements. And it's just everybody trying to do what they can to belittle and undermine masculinity. And I just couldn't get it because I'm naturally a masculine dude. I mean, I'm 6'2", I look like an NFL linebacker IRL. So if I have all of these weak people telling me that I'm evil for just being who I am,
Right.
then I don't want to hear about it. I don't really care. Masculinity is a wonderful thing to have. And I think you're the one who is defective in a way if you're not living up to what you should be, because there are all of these societal pressures brought about by a bunch of people looking to make society more pacified and consumeristic.
Yeah, I mean, it would talk about social construct. I think it's a social construct to say that gender doesn't exist. That is the social construct, not the other way around. And I think you'd find it interesting. My first interview that I did, I think, was it last week or something? I don't know. But it's a guy who writes these books on. It's called, his Twitter handle is Testosterone and Civilization. So he started researching about testosterone levels and the cycles that the effects it has on civilization, and it goes through cycles and stuff like that. And it's very much kind of in line with what you're talking about, and the testosterone levels really make a big difference. And right now, it's definitely low T, which is why you have this push against masculinity and trying to feminize like everything, and even the soy boy kind of thing. It's feminized men, and it's not really a good place to go. And the concept also of I say it all the time, but it's not a fight between men and women. It's not a fight to the top. It's supposed to be the yin and yang, complementary. So I find it really annoying when feminists try to kind of push this war with men. This war on masculinity. That's not really the way to go about it. And if these so self-proclaimed spiritual kind of guru type people can't understand that both is required, both is needed, then it's just this false god of femininity that they're worshiping.
It's not even femininity. They're striving to become
inferior
men.
That's true. Just this weird blob of anti-genders is really what it is. It's so strange. But let me see here. So that's, I guess, we were on the topic of your first book and the concept of time, A Matter of Time. And what is the new thing that you're working on?
Okay, so it's going to be a sort of dissident right, so young dissident right. So I'm a sort of a middle millennial. Mm-hmm. I'm turning 29 next month.
Oh wow!
So I'm sort of middle millennial, dissident right, who has gotten red pilled, as it were, through the use of alternative media, alternative YouTubers, social media. And it's going to be a sort of Adios America. I don't know if you read that by Ann Coulter, but with a sort of postmodernist right spin on it. So I'm going to go through a lot of the demographic problems with America. I'm going to go through a lot of the problems with big tech, censorship, the entertainment industry. I'm going to go over the sort of the Globo HOMO stuff as well. I'm going to go through all of these social justice matters, because politics and the political landscape is evolving at such a quick pace. And I'm also going to do a sort of a chronology of how America sort of became clownified, how America became into a clown world. I'm going to start back as far as perhaps the Spanish-American War, because I can trace the roots back to this clownification of America back as far as
Wow.
sort of the turn of the 20th century.
Wow. That's really interesting. Do you know what you're going to call it yet?
Yeah, it's going to be sort of a play on words of Ben Shapiro's infamous "I don't care for the browning of America." I'm going to call it the clowning of America.
Oh my god, that's so funny. Yeah, I get it. Um, yeah, well, I mean, it is an interesting topic too, as far as you mentioned Ann Coulter's book, so it's not necessarily. I mean, that was, I guess, a red pilling moment for me too, as I was pretty civic nationalist before, just a basic conservative, and there was a lot of red pilling going on, I suppose, and it is an interesting topic of the demographic change. And have you seen? There was some politician and she was preaching in Spanish at some, I don't know, town hall, wherever, and she was just being very angry and emotional about it. And I guess she got some sort of bill to pass where in New York, I think it is, that illegals can have driver's licenses.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, I saw the thumbnail of that article. Actually, tweeted it out, and there's some very portly ladies
Yeah.
of Hispanic extraction, sort of waving around, looking euphoric. Oh,
And
but
then that's scary. Someone pointed it out. I'm not sure if it was you, but they pointed out. Thank you so much. I needed another monster. I have a lot to do today. I got to dye his hair after this interview, so I'm going for it. It's someone pointed out in the comments that it was scary because we've been talking about voter registration voter ID, and if illegals have ID, there's your demographics change. They can come in and vote. Who do you think they're going to vote for?
yeah, yeah, exactly. And this sort of fantasy of the rhinos and a lot of the mainstream right, the constitutionalist types, that they're natural conservatives. All they need to do is just defer to the Constitution, pick up a Glock, and they'll become as American as apple pie overnight. Well, we got 50 years of data which says the opposite. In fact, the trend seems to be going the other way, and I believe it's the Hispanic group which has the highest rates of teenage pregnancies, which isn't really a very conservative position to have,
Right.
according to sort of more modern conservative ideas. And we know the way they vote. They vote as a bloc. There's a lot of welfare participation, even among illegals. There's a lot of illegals that populate the federal prisons as well. So something has to be done about the porous borders in the South before you can start getting back on track to making America what it was sort of pre-1965. And even during Eisenhower, we had Operation Wetback 2.0, and I can't remember what the exact amount was when it came to deportations, but you're going to need something drastic in order to save America from its fate. And 2024 is when Texas is projected to go blue, and that's going to be
Wow.
the end of the American experiment once that goes blue.
Yeah, it's really sad. Man, I remember when California was red.
Sorry, that's going back a while.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we also had a Republican governor, Rudy Giuliani. He's the one that cleaned up New York, and then the Democrats took it. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's crazy. Someone said, as far as your book title, he said, AKA the honkening.
I like that. Yeah, the American honkening.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Well, I mean, it needs to be talked about and it needs to be said, and it's unfortunate because talking about the boomer conservatives, the neoconservative stuff, it's become taboo to talk about this, and it's nice that we have actually Ann Coulter that wrote about it, because it kind of it makes it a little bit more palatable to talk about, and we do need more content, books and stuff like that, like people like you talking about it without it being some white supremacist kind of concept. It is a very real concept, and the more they try to push it into being something that is taboo and very extreme, the more they're going to win it. Because if we can't even address the problem of the demographics and the voting, then we're just handing it to them because it's too taboo to talk about. So it's really important work that you're doing.
Well, thank you, and I hope I can reach a wide audience with this kind of stuff, because I think the importance of people waking up to the fact that the left has got this cultural domination on every institutional level, and that's that's only then you could start really affecting change,
Right.
when more people start realizing, oh, let's have this free speech marketplace of ideas. Well, unfortunately, that's a distraction. That's a distraction away from using your political energy to actually doing any good. And it's the same with libertarianism. It's great on paper, and
Right.
it's a very intelligent abstract principle, but in the real world it's completely inapplicable, because it just removes you from the political equation completely.
Yeah.
You're almost an irrelevant force. I saw the Libertarian Party tweet out today saying that silence is consent when it comes to
No.
voting. Yeah,
That
they
is
should be
such a
really
lefty
careful.
term. Oh my God.
Yeah, well, I mean, they were inundated by a lot of these fringe Democrats, and they tried to extend an olive branch to them when it came to promising social freedom. So they're no longer really a right-wing party, because
Yeah.
libertarianism should be the materialist wing of a right-wing side of politics,
Yeah.
because what they are proposing isn't very spiritual, but it's going out there and saying, well, you can all become the duke of your property. You can become the sort of strong frontiersman and own your property without being impeded or restricted by any other
The
force.
government.
But
Yeah.
being the government. And unfortunately, we don't really have that luxury where people can just go off to places like Montana or Wyoming and have their own patch of land there, where they're not going to be sort of interfered with by the state. Unfortunately, not everyone can afford that luxury. And now the reality is, you have these massive megalopolises, which are just teeming with people from diverse cultures, divergent groups, all trying to live together harmoniously. And that's not going to be able to survive without this mediating force, which unfortunately has to come in the form of the state. And
Right.
we do live in a democracy at the moment, and we need to figure out how you can muster up as much energy on a 2016 level for the right in 2020, after Trump has cut on most of his most important promises so far.
Yeah. God, this upcoming election is a whole thing. But back to the libertarian thing. Yeah, I remember back in the day. This is before Obama was elected, when he was running. I was into libertarianism back then. That's when it was under the Republican ticket, and it was Ron Paul. And Ron Paul himself actually used to be a gyno, so he was anti-abortion and stuff like that, because he was firsthand, dealt with that stuff. He was a gynecologist, and it used to be definitely far more conservative, which is why I was into it. It was less like neocon, and it was a little bit more like the hip, younger kind of conservatives. And then something definitely changed. Like you said, I think a lot of the Democrats that were kind of not feeling the far left either kind of came over, and there just becomes a point where you do need some sort of structure to things, or certain I realized it too. Things back in 2014 maybe. I went to an event in New York City, a libertarian event, and I kind of realized that I felt distance towards it, because I brought up some sort of concepts to them and said, yes, but what about this? And I started to believe a little bit more about moral, what was it, like a moral law, like there was another law that goes beyond the civic law that I believe in. And I think that's more of a right-wing concept, where morality is above like the state's laws. And I think that is more important for culture and civilization, because you can start going down that freedom is freedom route and get into some degeneracy, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And I wrote about 1,000 pages for my book today, for my new book today, and just a bit of a sneak preview, I go into how there's almost this structure in place where major corporations have become sort of a priestly caste, as it were, for the progressive moral law, for their moral framework.
Right.
As you see now that all of these corporations have their pride flags at the
Yeah.
ready during June, and it can have this sort of mimetic effect where people take images with their favorite brands and put them up to social media, and a lot of these people are influencers or they're perceived as being cool, so people want to emulate them. They want to emulate them, and not just for the brands that they buy, but the political views that they espouse. And by that way, it can become entrenched within a culture. But they have this cultural authority over every single institution. No institution, unless it's explicitly right wing, which will mean that will get vilified from here
Right.
until the end of time if it doesn't get corrupted, or if there's no infighting or internal squabbles. It will eventually go over to the left. And I think there are plenty of examples to illustrate this point as well. I think one of the most stunning ones is probably just the Republican Party itself, how it just got infested with neoconservative nonsense, which delegitimized the right as a legitimate force. Because you're just defending the indefensible for what ends? And they're not even any ends worth preserving. For example, neoconservatism, endless foreign policy in the Middle East, this horrible perception of free market economics. So Reaganomics, for example, is just viewed so nastily by the bulk of the population that trying to defend that just renders you this sort of wicked sort of boogeyman, and it makes the right just look very unpalatable. And I think a lot of people are reluctant to move towards the right, but represent what they symbolize. They symbolize foreign policy, they symbolize sort of global capitalism, they symbolize being mean to gay people and deferring to all these outdated traditional values and morality, which the left has been instrumental in sort of tearing apart. And they have to keep traditional values at bay in order to keep this sort of unfettered social freedom to continue. You wouldn't be able to do it in a Christian society, or at least a nationalistic society, to such a degree as you can see it now in places like California, New York.
Yeah. One of the viewers that he got the word from me. I don't know. I'm feeling a bit off. Too much monster. I'm getting high. He said natural law. That's the word that I was looking for. Is natural law. That's when I started getting into a little bit more of that natural law and morality and stuff, kind of making more of an impact than just freedom for freedom's sake, like a normal libertarian. But the libertarians definitely have taken a turn. But you also make the point about, what you said, 2024 we'll lose Texas, and then you mentioned something about the upcoming election and just all this like boomer conservative kind of stuff. What's your take on all that? And I personally think that we've gone downhill since 2016. I'm really disappointed. This is not what I ruined my career for. It's the unkept promises from Trump is one thing, and the general climate of the boomerism conservatives and all the stuff that's going on. What do you think we should look towards? What do you think the current state is, and what should we do about it?
So I have quite a hot take about the boomer situation.
Ooh.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I have a bit of a hot take on the boomer situation. I think that they need to have their red pilling moment, but I think that they're still very quote unquote blue pill. They have the sort of pre-approved establishment view of what right wing politics should be, and as I said earlier, it remains within that sort of ballpark where right-wing views are sort of viewed as evil, as wrong. They're responsible for all this neocon Trotskyite foreign policy in the Middle East and all around the world. They're for this trickle-down Reaganomics, which isn't very popular with a lot of people. They're for being mean to gay people, and they're racist. And a lot of time and effort used by boomers is proving out how certain countries are greatest ally, that meme there, and then how they're desperately not racist by citing all these turning point USA unemployment figures per demographic group, even though under the same breath they'll say identity politics doesn't matter, but they understand that to prove that they're not racist, they've lowered black unemployment to the lowest levels in recorded history. And unfortunately, nobody cares about that. The black population still votes 9-1 to the Democratic Party. It's not even 9-1, it's like 9-0.7 or something like that. So that's almost an irrecoverable group, and they're only, 13-14% of the population as well, so that's not going to swing a lot.
Oop, yeah, losing you a little bit, but that's okay. Yeah. I don't know if you can hear me. Just give me a signal somehow if you can hear me. I'm losing connection with you. But we have a viewer, one of my guys, Jay. He talks about that a lot, actually. And he brings up the voter approval of the voting rate of the black community. I mean, come on, Jay, give me some stats here. He's always really into that kind of stuff. He actually is half black and half Mexican or something, and he is always calling out the boomer right when they try to bring up the black vote, and that it's pointless and that it's stupid. And he says that it's actually not as high as what they're claiming it to be and stuff like that. But let me try to make sure I can get a hold of Orwell. Let me see if that was him. Let me send him a message. Can you hear me? Okay, well, in the meantime, there is something that people keep sending me right now. Jack and Lucy keep sending this to me, so I'm just going to share it with you guys because it looks really interesting. Hold on a second. I'll just post it. Sorry guys, hold on 1 second. Alright, let's check this out, guys, while I try to get a hold of Orwell again. But apparently there is a Facebook group where you can only talk like boomers, and I'm having the time of my life. Dinner with Tom. That's so true. So true. Boomers and their photo abilities is absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Can you take another photograph? I can't see him. I am no good with the photos. Tom is eating his steak now. I totally type like that. Oh my god. Glad to hear. Hope he's enjoying it. Praying you're doing all right after knee surgery. No medication, in pain. God will see me through this. Tom says to take the painkiller, but I say hell no. Amen. Don't know if you heard, but Tabitha's son was addicted to painkillers. He has dropped out of college. Please do not tell her I told you this. I have to join that. I have to join that. I use Facebook on my home computer, but it's so slow. My granddaughter told me there's a Facebook app for phones on the App Store. Where does anyone know where that is? Is it in the mall? He. Oh gosh, this is knee slapping funny, if not a bit off color. Oh well. My Randy always said I had a dirty sense of humor. He passed away last fall. I miss him every day. As my mom used to say, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. She passed in 1985 and I still miss. That's when I was born. And I still miss her. She's in God's arms now with my Randy. God bless America. MAGA. I got a new Stick deodorant today. The instruction said remove cap and push up bottom. I can barely walk, but whenever I fart, the room smells lovely. Oh my god. I need to be in this group. Oh my god, my mom is. This is literally my mom. What website do you use these? What website do you get these images in your messages for? Thank you, LOL. My mom was like confused by GIFs or GIFs. I still don't know which way to say it. She was like, how did you do that? And we had to like literally show her in screen cap and draw circles around like the GIF section. Oh my god, I literally type like a boomer because I do these mistakes all the time. Oh my god, I'm literally a boomer. It's sad. It's really, really sad. Not the minion memes. I didn't even think about that. And what the fuck? Orwell's in the US right now and his tech has never been more boomer. I hate random LOL as much as all caps. Shit, I do LOL a lot. Trump will win 2020 libtards. Yeah, I'm a latchkey kid too. Gen X latchkey kid. Oh, I think I'm technically a millennial, but I'm like on the cusp. I was born in the 80s, so I'm like an old millennial. You'll be their queen, Martina. That's true. Let me just check and see if he's all right. That's okay because I've been on for 2 hours, so I should get going soon anyway. I just wanted to do the full hour with him, but you know, no stress. This is not a stressful situation. It's okay. We really got to let me see. Okay, he's saying his internet isn't working. All right, yeah, he's saying the internet's not working. He's going to try to reboot and stuff, but I'm saying it's no biggie. We had him for almost an hour, and you know, we'll just promote his stuff. Make sure you guys are following. I think most of you guys probably are following Orwell and Goode. Good guy. He posted a lot of really good tweets. He does a lot of stuff like this. We've talked about Aaron Phillips on our streams a lot. But he does a lot of this stuff where he takes the headlines and has a little funny comment to it. But he always finds really, really good headlines. Oh, that's nice. Yeah, see, he's always... Oh, yeah, this is another guy that I follow, actually. Let's see what's going on here. I love David Santa Carla. Yeah, see, he does stuff like this. Big tech is not your friend. Posts like the headline. It's always good stuff. He always finds really, really interesting ones to kind of bring up.
Hey, I'm back.
Oh, hey!
Yeah, sorry about that.
No
My
worries.
internet was out of order temporarily, but thank you for waiting.
Yeah, no problem. Oh, I'm glad that you're back. Oh my God, was I trying to show your Twitter to... I just pulled a boomer move. I was just showing your Twitter to everyone, but I didn't have the screen showing. It was just on me. Yeah, great. Total boomer move. But yeah, I was just being like, yeah, check out his Twitter. You do a lot of this, the posting of, like some really interesting headlines. Sometimes they're really obscure. It's like, how the hell did you find this? And you have some sassy thing to say. It's super fun. So pretty sure most of my followers are probably following you already. But check that out and check out the book. But what were we saying anyway? I felt like it was really interesting.
Yeah, we were talking about boomers. My take on them is just basically they need to be red pilled because they're sort of living within this approved conservative paradigm, which is just not going to affect any change whatsoever. They've lost every single fight they've been in. What social constructs, as it were, have they managed to preserve? I mean, according to every conservative metric, they've lost everything. So obviously, what they're doing isn't effective, and they have this tendency to rest on their laurels and feel romantic and nostalgic about times that have been and gone that weren't quite what they thought they were, such as the 8 years of Reagan. A lot of boomer conservatives sort of adore him, almost like a same cult of personality.
Right.
When on paper he was objectively a very bad president, especially for conservative values.
Yeah, shit. I was gonna say something and I got sidetracked. Oh my god, I think like too much Monster is genuinely probably really bad for you because I am up, but my brain is not. Like it feels like I've been drinking or something. My brain is not all there. But yeah, no, the boomer kind of mentality is. Oh yeah, this is what I was gonna say. Is that it's. I feel like the boomer conservatives are a bit like. You know how the whole thing has shifted to the left, where even like the center has shifted so far left that even if you're like a leftist, you're a conservative, like in the left, far left's like eyes or whatever. But in reality, that means that we have a lot of like actual leftists that consider themselves conservative or right wing, but they're really not. And I think it's tainting a lot of our side, if like we want to talk like that. I think things are starting to go down the like progressive route. I'm starting to see things that are the way that the leftists kind of started talking in the beginning. Being accepting of certain things. Not saying that you shouldn't be accepting of things, but the way that it's taught, spoken about, and presented, it just reminds me of the left a lot. And I feel like we're going down that path of like leftism a bit. I mean, whether it's like Trump being like, yay, gay rights and wherever or whatever. You know what I'm talking about. It just seems like we're going down the leftist like paths. Oh, that's what they say too, is that conservatism is like leftism, but slower.
Yeah, and Cthulhu always swims leftwards, and you're right. I mean, what the Conservatives are very good at is making concessions, and we have seen how the Overton window has just shifted so far to the left. And I brought this up in my new book, the fact that in 2012, people like Hillary Clinton and Obama were against gay marriage, and mega corporations weren't going to touch the subject in a million years. I mean, they're not going to start putting rainbow flags on their company logos until it is socially acceptable to do so and safe and cool. And you even have people like KLM and Dr. Pepper sort of putting out advertisements which imply sort of sexuality, gay sexuality. There was one by Dr. Pepper in French, which had top, bottom, and I can't remember what the other one was. And then you had the other one from KLM with the seat belts, where if you use the same buckles, then of course, if there were an emergency landing or something, you just go flying out your seat. But it's just a funny joke. And you have places like United Airlines as well, which have gone pretty far off the SJW deep end, talking about things such as gender theory. I think 7 years ago, when this was a hot topic, the gay marriage was a hot topic, the vast majority of the general population would have no idea or didn't really give a crap about what gender theory was, and now major corporations are ramming it down your throat, whether you like it or not, having to accept people who are non-binary, even though a very, 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 very insignificantly small number of the population identify in such a way. But there's a sort of an elevation of these minority groups. And the reason is, and I think it's very straightforward, and some people might flame me for this, is the fact that LGBT is implicitly sexual, which which is why it's been promoted so heavily by major corporations, because it is an attempt in order to sort of cheapen the meaning of sex, away from something that was exclusively marital, say. I'm not an idiot. I mean, I would have premarital and extramarital sex before sort of the 1950s. I'm well aware of that. If you read accounts of what the aristocratic classes did in the 19th and 18th century, that they're a bunch of degenerates. But the fact of the matter is, it's a social perception of what it represents. So a society that is more hedonistic, which is related to a society in which sex is sort of demystifies and desacralized, and that's the society that's going to be more susceptible to consuming and to messages of consumerism, and most importantly, holding down this left-wing cultural hegemony, which is what they have over us, that everything is looked through a left-wing lens. And it's not only that, because unfortunately most people don't have the ability to think critically. They are told how to feel what they think. So if everything's within a sort of left-wing framework, and people are like going back to the sort of the NPC meme from about 8-9 months ago, people are just told to feel a certain way about things. They're sort of being encoded to feel a certain way about certain political events. And they're very good at these dialectics. So you have the bad guy, and you have the good guy. The left is always the good guy, and anybody who's a moral outsider to the left-wing framework is a bad guy. Right. This is this is what's so retarded. Oh gosh, I'm sorry for saying that word. I won't have to blur it out. It's so dumb about the right. The constant bad guy. This is like the boomer right. The bad guy for everything, but they get nothing done. So you're like the worst supervillain in history.
Right, and that was my other question, was like, what do you think we should do? I mean, we're gonna have the 2020 election. It's a bit sketchy now if he's gonna win or not. I mean, he might. It's usually easier to be reelected than it is to become the new president. So it might just happen. That momentum might just be there already. That tends to happen when we elect someone. They tend to do a 2-term. Unless they're absolutely horrible. But ultimately, even if he does get the next election, we're probably not going to have a Republican or right-winger win again, because we're not doing anything, and we're fucking things up. Excuse me. And what do you think we should do about it? Like, how do we fight this war when we've got the boomers kind of taking this over and messing things up?
Well, what Trump was really effective at was this sort of casting a wide net. He wasn't he was pro-LGBT, he was pro-social welfare and protectionism, which resonates with a lot of working class voters. And he said a lot of things that were politically incorrect, which was a breath of fresh air for a lot of people in middle America. Right. Now, what I think is very important to do is to try to captivate as much political energy as you possibly can. The left is very good at mustering political energy and using it for their own advantage. The right is dreadful at it. You have all these mummified personalities just carted out in front of the crowd, just talk about all of these low energy topics in front of an equally mummified audience. That doesn't resonate with young people. What needs to be done is to take some of the left's playbook, this sort of plays out their playbook, and use it to your own advantage. So they're very good at evoking emotions. The right is dreadful at it, absolutely catastrophically dreadful at it. So whenever
it's because facts don't care about your feelings.
Right, and then you have Ben Shapiro saying facts don't give a crap about your feelings. I mean, well, unfortunately for most people, feelings don't give a crap about your facts.
Right, I was going to say that.
People like listening to anecdotes. They don't like being just bombarded with statistics. So what needs to be done in order to sort of evoke all this energy that's needed to get a re-election is to talk about how these things such as white guilt, but not frame it in that way. Just show how this mass immigration has ruined the future for your children and grandchildren, because they're not going to live in the same place that your grandparents grew up in. It's going to be a completely different country. The chances are, if you look at places like South Africa, if you look at places like rural Arizona, and you see how they've just just changed so drastically in such a short period of time.
Yeah.
Do you think that your children are going to like living in this kind of society? And you need to frame it in that way as well, because it needs to resonate with women more than men. Unfortunately, women tend to be more receptive to emotions and reason on the whole. Flame me if you want, I don't care. It's the
That's
truth.
true.
And that's how you get this energy behind it. And talking about nationalism, because nationalism isn't exactly 100% airtight, reasonable, logical position to be, but it is the one which will get people most up in arms when they see an existential threat harassing their nation. Then they're going to get up and want to do something about it, maybe take political action, and vote who's going to want to do something to take it back to a place where it doesn't or isn't affected by such clown world things just happening all the time, you know?
Yeah, well, I mean, that was a good thing that Trump did was say nationalism isn't a bad word. I'm a nationalist, blah, blah, blah. I mean, that was, I think, a positive thing that he did, because I felt the same way. I mean, when I was in university like 10 years ago or so, the word nationalism by definition was love of one's country. Nothing wrong with that, like, I mean, Africa's not a country, but you know what I mean. Africa loves their continent, and they have African stuff all over the place, and it's just like, why can't we be like, yeah, I love America? Like, what's the problem? Why can't I be a nationalist? Oh my god, this like thing is going off. Sorry about that. Oh my god, hold on. I like turned on this like iPhone that I have, this old iPhone, and because Bitcoin went up, right? And I was like, oh, let me check my Coinbase. And then I like couldn't log in because it made me do like the 2-factor authentication thing, and I'm like, I don't have that American phone that I had it on. So I was like, oh my god, let me get my American iPhone out and like turn it on and get into the my Bitcoin wallet and access it. So like I have this phone on that I never use, so that's why that's going up. Sorry about it.
That's all right.
But yeah, then Bitcoin, you know what I mean? So yeah, no, the nationalism thing is interesting. So yeah, back in school it was like, love of one's country. There's nothing wrong with that, and I grew up with it being like, what? Yeah, nationalism, not a big deal. And the way that the left have turned it, I mean, we know what they do. They turn things and make it seem like they're bad words all the time. I mean, even this is like bad somehow, white supremacist somehow. And I remember also being in the theater backstage when we were kind of like, people were attacking me about stuff, and I was saying something. I said, yeah, I'm a nationalist, and I said, and they were like, what? And they got like really weird. I was like, I remember being so confused. Why is that like really shocking? Like, yes, I love my country. So like, why is that a bad thing anyway? So yeah, that's a good point. And I think Trump actually did do good by like going on in the press and being like, I am a nationalist. It's not a dirty word. But as far as like the youth and trying to be hip and reach that kind of audience, Turning Point USA seems to think that they're doing that job. What what do you think about that?
Well, Turning Point USA are just regurgitating conservative positions from the 80s with a bit less foreign policy and a bit more homosexuality. That's about it. So you're absolutely right. Nationalism shouldn't be a dirty word. It's the natural thing. People are going to feel a love of one's own in-group over the love of others. Morrissey got pilloried by the mainstream press for saying that,
Yeah.
for saying something along those lines. Well, where is the lie? I just see a bunch of people just screaming invective at him, but not refuting anything he's saying. And I think that when you have universal suffrage, there is a lot of energy you can harness among women in showing that, well, what's going to happen of your kids if you have this future which isn't going to be of your own. And the Turning Point USA just don't get it. The right doesn't get it. And the thing is, there is a distinct lacking of intellectuals in the right because, as I said before in previous streams, that the peer review process in academia is so skewed and so stacked towards favouring left-wing views. I mean, you have the recent case of the University of New Brunswick, Ricardo Duquesne, who wrote a fantastic book called The Uniqueness of Western Civilization, getting sort of ousted into early retirement for having these politically incorrect views. He's been on Stefan Molyneux, I think, once or twice as well, if you want to go check that out.
Yeah.
He's actually Puerto Rican originally. And then you have people like Hans Hermann Hoppe in the University of Las Vegas getting ousted for saying that gays would probably have a higher time preference because they don't have kids. And then you have people like Charles Murray, a higher time preference. So the chances are, since they don't have children, they're not going to be as future oriented as heterosexual couples who have kids of their own. So they're not going to look as far into the future because they don't have the biological legacy continuing after they've gone. And he got in a lot of trouble for saying that as well, because a student of his got triggered and went to the dean. But they wanted to get rid of him anyway because he didn't have politically correct views. And you can see this all over the place, but on the dissident right, there are a lot of smart people. There are a lot of people with good ideas. And it seems as if, since the left has had this sort of command of academia over the last, 100 or so years, they've become intellectually sterile. I think they've begun to run out of ideas, and all of the interesting and energetic and enthusiastic books seem to be coming from the political right. And the mainstream media has to decry, a place like Amazon has to shut them down. So they kind of realize there is this threat. And the only two things I can see that the left have to offer now are, on the economic side, are reparations for slavery or for meanness. So I have seen talk of reparations for slavery and reparations for gay people. And I've also seen, on the other hand, more social liberalization, which is going to be very difficult to do because there's going to be very, very few taboo subjects. And in actual fact, I have seen people from LGBT groups actually talk about how it was more fun to be gay in a time where it wasn't so accepted. I think there is a Freudian term for it, where there's more fun in lusting after the chase than actually sort of winning the chase, as it were.
Right. I mean, that's really interesting concept in general, but it's also interesting that they could admit that it is socially acceptable now, because they still somehow try to latch on to being like this underdog and being oppressed or something, and it's like, okay, sure, whatever you say.
Yeah, sure. You're oppressed, but you have the ability to get people, to get bakeries sued.
Yeah.
You have the ability to get schools to force out people who say bad things, right? You're the one who's oppressed right now.
Yeah, sure.
It's completely ridiculous, but what it is some guy coined a term called bio-Leninism, and it's a means by which you can instill order pretty quickly by sort of extending honor and positions of power to people who wouldn't have had it otherwise within a different social framework. And I think the DMV, or just any bureaucratic office, is a great example of this, because the DMV gives people who are clearly diversity hires, and a lot of bureaucratic offices give these overweight fat cat ladies in their 40s a sense of purpose and power when they otherwise wouldn't have it, which is going to sort of instill this sense of loyalty towards the system that gives them that position of power.
Right.
Because when gay people say that they're oppressed, they don't believe it. Like, a lot of the people who go out there and say, I'm oppressed, this is racist, this is a homophobic system I'm in, they don't actually believe it. It's a flex. They're saying that I am this part of this intersection. I have this position of power over you because you're heteronormative and you were mean to me historically. Therefore, I have the ability to basically get you fired if you're not 100% on board with my sort of whimsical political goals.
Yeah, that's exactly it, and that's how I felt getting attacked myself. But yeah, we'll wrap it up. We've been on for a while, and I really appreciate it. Some good stuff. But I just kind of want to go over again one more time. Maybe I'm too monster high, and then we'll wrap it up. But I like to think, what can we do? Like what? I mean, I'm focusing on like my territory, which is arts and culture. We're working on a magazine where we have all sorts of great people. Like Peter Cozy, different like musicians, artists, like really beautiful, like fine art, different kinds of content, and curating a magazine and putting all this like together and doing print. I think going back to print is a really great idea. That's why, you doing your book is also great. It's how we could spread around our information. I mean, like you said, taking their playbook, I'm thinking about how it was McCarthyism, and they have to pass, here's a pamphlet, and they had to like give their knowledge
Yeah.
secretly around. I feel like that's kind of what we have to do. So that's what I'm doing for the movement, or our side and our culture and civilization, because I think the arts are really important that people tend to kind of overlook, but then forfeit it to the left, and I don't think we should do that. I think it's a really, really wrong place to go, and unfortunately the right doesn't appreciate the arts so much. And
Yeah.
but what other kinds of ways can we what can we do? You know?
Well, again, as you're saying with the arts are very important, and that's something that the right has the ascendancy on. I mean, you can just basically just say that the bulk of modern art is just hideous, and
Yeah.
art is going to go back to representing beauty, status, something transcendental, an experience, moment in time, a story. You know, like modern art, unless you're like a snooty, upturned nosed prick, is bereft of meaning for a lot of people. Like the average normie just sees some squiggles on a canvas and thinks, "What the heck is this? How am I meant to interpret anything from this?" I don't have sort of 4 years of college education telling me about the suffering and torment behind the artist's inspiration. So, it's just very easy. I have no artistic talent myself, but I appreciate fine art. I love looking at something that's aesthetically pleasing and beautiful,
Right.
and sort of representative of a struggle. I like all of these sort of early to mid Renaissance pictures depicting a struggle, be it metaphysical or physical. It's just something that really takes you back, and you can look at it for minutes on end. So that's a very important territory that's very easy to reclaim. It's almost just empty.
Right.
You can just go in there and start having a few right-wing artists. I mean, Owen Cyclops is good, but his art's quite abstract. But it's more beautiful than a lot of the artwork you see now.
Yeah,
But
Owen's going
if
to
you-
be in the magazine as well. Yeah.
Good. I'm actually going to try to get him to do my book cover. I've actually spoken to him about that for the
Oh,
next one.
nice. Yeah, that'd be great. Well, that's another thing that I say we need to do is shoot, I keep like doing some boomer things with this thing. Yeah, that's kind of what we have to do, which is why the magazine is exciting, because of course I have my own artistic endeavors that I want to do and put out there, but the magazine is great because we're putting all of the different talent together, and when you're able to kind of synergistically work together, I think is like really maximum power, because he's providing artwork for you're providing him with some sort of job in a sense to create artwork. It all kind of fits together, and I think that's why it works with the left more so than the right, because we tend to kind of have our own things that we're promoting on our own, but when we're able to take our own artists and make it work, that's always great. Like I did for my Lady Alchemy stuff, my stickers and posters. I have the Faction. The Faction? They printed those out. They're the ones that do the billboards in LA. They're like the NPC billboard and all that.
Ah, right.
So I have them. So I'm putting money into their pockets. They're helping me. We get to support each other. And the left can't go and complain to the people printing my stuff and say, she's a Trump supporter, shut her down, because they're on my side. So it's really great. We get to support each other, and I think that's awesome. You should totally do the book cover. Good idea.
Yeah, and that's a great idea. I think there should be more sorts of right-wing groups. I'm going to try to form a book club and a fitness club on the right, because fitness itself is implicitly, or at least from a metapolitical standpoint, a right-wing thing to do, because it requires discipline, it requires repetition, it requires pain, it requires sacrifice.
Yes. So I was just talking about this also with AJ, who's on before you, because he apparently does kind of stuff like that, fitness kind of motivational kind of person, and I mentioned the whole thing of, what was it? Was it Stefan Molyneux or something that kind of criticized the whole working out thing? And there's been a bit of a new concept of attacking people that work out. And, my take on it is that yes, to me it is almost like a religious experience because it's sacrifice, it's dedication. You have to actually, it's the hedonistic left. I mean, they do what you want, do what feels good, do what feels good. Well, you know what feels good? Me sitting around eating donuts all day on the sofa and watching TV. You know what's not so fun? Getting my ass out and doing a little bit of hard work and getting into shape. But ultimately, it's better for you in the long run. It's repetition, like you said, it's sacrifice. And also, when you go out and I'm out running in nature and all that stuff, and you get those endorphins, it becomes closer to God. You know, I become one with the universe and my understanding and the place in the world. So I see it as something good, but yes, I can understand the concept of then it going too far, and then it can become about vanity and, you know, injecting yourself with steroids or whatever. And I feel the same way about beauty. My artwork has always been against the cult of ugliness, and I'm all about beauty. I love beauty. Beauty is godliness, you know, like a flower, like a sunset, like, you know, the human body, like the Statue of David and all that stuff. I love beauty, but then you can go too far and it becomes vanity, and then you start getting injections and implants and all sorts of like weird things and become obsessed with it. So there's this balance with it, but I agree with you. And yeah.
The final thing I'd like to say to that, I mean, without taking direct political action, the best thing you can do is to become a role model. So be the best you possible. Don't try to be anybody else. Be the
Right.
best you. Be as authentically you as you can, but be the
Yes.
best version of you that you can be. So people will look up to you. People will see you as an upstanding member of the community. Have a family, have children, try to raise them to the best of your ability. So people will look around and see your normally friends, people who might be more invested in the sort of the pop culture and going out getting drunk on the weekends. Will see this and they'll notice, well, his life or her life is fuller of meaning than mine. There's more meaning in that person's life than me. They seem to be happier. They may be a little bit stressed at times, but they seem to be on the whole happier, whereas I'm still empty. I'm still going out there trying to fill my void with something. And people are going to want to strive to do that. And eventually, there's going to be more of a culturally right wing outlook on life when
Right.
there has to be sacrifice and personal responsibility in order to preserve something that's going to be worthwhile going forward into the future, which is, you know, which is what we need. We need to have people who become more future oriented when it comes to how they spend their life, how they spend their resources, how they save, what business transactions they make, and everything. It has to be going upwards and into the future. It can't be this sort of race to the bottom, which is what cultural leftism has become. And you know, you just need to kind of, I don't want to sort of trad post a bit, but reject degeneracy and embrace tradition, as it were. To not look backwards for traditions that may not feel authentic to you, but at least have things
Right.
which
Right.
are everlasting, which are unshakable, and will guide you in the modern world.
Yeah, I agree with that. Good job. I mean, in addition to that, because again, I don't want to, you know, trad post either if it's not authentic to you. But my point is, uh, educate yourself, read books, look at art, go to museums, you know, learn about things. Maybe less time on Twitter at times. Take one day a week, you know, take that Sabbath day off and go enjoy some cultural things. And I think that's also that push forward that you're talking about, the push up, you know, to kind of really understand our culture and tradition and whatever it is for you, is to really educate yourself on more cultural related things.
Yeah, and just real quick, enjoy nature. Try
Yeah.
to spend some time
Yeah.
in nature. Go to a park once a week or something. That
Yep.
really, really helps boost morale. Really helps.
Yep. So yeah, guys, check out Orwell and Goode. He's got his book on Amazon. Check that out. Again, this is how you want to push forward: is to support, you know, not only each other but learn a little something. See the content that we are creating, and learn and do more than read headlines on the internet. Books are really important, and supporting each other is really important. So check that out. He's working on a new book. Really exciting stuff. Thanks so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Great. All right, guys. I will not be doing, I know people asked about this yesterday, I will not be doing the alchemy stream tomorrow because I forgot to talk about cultural things. I'm going to the theater tomorrow. I'm watching, what is it, Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat something like that. One of those. One of those titles. That's what I think the movie is called. But yeah, I'm watching Joseph tomorrow in London at the theater. Forgot about that, so I will not be doing Alchemy Stream tomorrow. I'll do it Friday. I'll try to do that Friday after I film my cooking video. So, all right. See you guys Friday. Let me find my end screen. Okay. Found the end screen. Bye, guys. See you later.